The most popular boy of his class was hiding a deep sadness in his heart. This is his life story, which also contains the secret to how you can stop suffering in life. Glenn was the kind of boy teachers loved. Always on the front bench, books neat, answers ready. He wasn't among the top 10 in his class, but he was the one who stayed behind after class to help the weaker students understand the subjects. His neighbors trusted him to run errands. Children followed him like a big brother, and even the shopkeepers in his town would smile when he walked by. On the outside, he seemed to have everything right, but behind that smile was a storm. His father drank every night, his mother worked herself sick, and Glenn carried the silence of a family that was breaking apart. He hid it well in public, until his body couldn't take it anymore. One day, he collapsed on his way back from school. No warning, no one expected it. By the time he opened his eyes, he was in a hospital bed. Machines beeped beside him. Seeing Glenn absent from school for weeks, his classmates whispered rumors. Maybe he was seriously ill, maybe he'd moved away, maybe he was never coming back. One night, staring at the ceiling while lying on his hospital bed, he whispered, "God, if you're real, why do you keep me alive just to suffer?" Tears began to flow from his eyes. Within a few minutes, he fell asleep. That night, God appeared in his dream, and here's where the story twists. The first face he saw the next morning wasn't his mother or a doctor, but a middle-aged man in the next bed. He was a new patient. The man didn't have one of his legs. It had been lost in an accident. A fake wooden leg was in its place, and yet he smiled as if life had given him everything. Glenn didn't know who the man was at that time. He was to find out his real identity years later. Soon, Glenn became acquainted with the man. He told him his life story, but the man just smiled. Confused and bitter, Glenn asked, "Why are you smiling at my misery? Don't you suffer every day yourself?" The man chuckled softly. "I stopped suffering the day I realized pain is mandatory, but misery is optional." At first, Glenn thought it was nonsense. How could misery be optional when your life is falling apart? But that night, as the nurses dimmed the lights, the man spoke again. "Your father drinks? That's his suffering. Your mother breaks her body to feed you? That's her suffering. But the tears you add on top, that is you choosing misery twice. Stop carrying pain that is not yours." Those words shook Glenn. For the first time, he wondered, what if suffering isn't what life gives me, but what I keep choosing to hold? And my friend, if this story has stirred something inside you, take just 2 seconds to like and share this video and subscribe to Story Wisdom Decoded. Also, please comment which country you are watching from. Your engagement will really help a small creator like me. Back to Glenn. When he left the hospital, nothing in his home had changed. His father still drank, his mother still coughed through sleepless nights. But something inside Glenn had shifted. He stopped expecting a perfect father and started working odd jobs after school to help his family. He stopped resenting his mother's tears and started massaging her tired hands at night. The problems didn't disappear, but the suffering began to loosen its grip. However, life wasn't done testing him. A year later, his mother collapsed while cooking food. For a moment, the old bitterness returned, the whisper that told him, "See, God still doesn't care." But this time, Glenn did something different. Instead of asking, "Why me?" he asked, "What should I do now?" He sold vegetables before school, then went to school, assisted a shopkeeper in the evening, and studied at night. Slowly but painfully, he built a new life from the cracks of the old one. Years later, after he became a well-known person in the town, Glenn stood on a small stage at the college where he had studied, sharing his journey with students who thought their own lives were hopeless. And that's when the shock hit him. Seated among the audience was the same man from the hospital, except that he had become older. Later, Glenn came to know that the old man wasn't exactly a stranger. He was actually his father's former friend when they were both in their 20s, the one person who had tried to stop his father's drinking habit. However, his father had not taken too kindly to his interference and ceased all contact with him. Glenn realized then that God had answered his desperate hospital prayer. Not by removing pain, but by sending a broken teacher into the bed next to him. The teacher he would never have chosen. The teacher who showed him that suffering ends not when life gets easier, but when you decide to stop adding misery to pain. Thanks for watching.